how do you solve problems? How specifically do you enact your uniquely creative problem-solving strategies? Because everybody has problem-solving strategies. But I'm guessing that somebody like you has a particularly advanced collection of problem-solving strategies. Most people, when they come up against a problem, they freeze and they wait for somebody else to tell them what to do. But I'm guessing that somebody like you isn't like this. You wouldn't be watching this video otherwise. You wouldn't have had the experiences you've had otherwise. You wouldn't have those memories that you have otherwise of approaching a problem not with anxiety, not with frustration like most people do, but approaching a problem with a certain level of curiosity, of interest, of maybe a subconscious anticipation of what is going to be on the other side of the problem. When you've been able to learn something new, when you've been able to discover something new about yourself. And while the problem itself isn't inherently pleasant, it's not inherently enjoyable, but you know from experience that so long as you don't give up, so long as you embrace the obstacles that the world puts in your path, and you interpret these obstacles not as problems to keep you stuck, but things to learn from, you have an experience that every time on the other side of the problem or the issue or the 2 steps back compared to the 3 steps forward, you learn something new. You gain new skills. You have a much broader view of the world. You have a much clearer view of your ambition. And your ambition, as it is represented in this much clearer view, is bigger and brighter and more compelling and maybe even seemingly closer. So how specifically do you solve problems? Do you have a specific strategy? Or do you just trust your intuition? Do you trust your subconscious to give you something to try? When you do come up with solutions to problems, do you notice any difference in how other people treat you? Because as I'm sure you're already aware, sometimes other people out in the world, they don't really want to solve problems, because that would require they keep moving forward in life. They'd rather have these discussions about the problems in the world and have kind of an ego flex contest to see who can describe these problems the most entertainingly, who can describe the world's problems the most accurately, who can describe the world's problems in a way that demonstrates their intelligence. But this keeps people stuck in a pleasant doom loop, maybe a pleasant interpersonal flex doom loop, but you are different. You see problems as opportunities. You see problems as a way to demonstrate your intelligence. You see problems as a way to demonstrate your creativity. You see problems as a way to demonstrate your continuous forward momentum towards your goals and ambitions. So, do you have a specific problem-solving strategy? Or do you just trust your unconscious? Either way, you know that the more you solve problems, the closer you'll get to your ambition. Solving problems with your uniquely creative intelligence will lead to more understandings of how the world works, so you can get closer and closer to your ambition. Most people don't realize, like you realize, how effective it is to solve problems with your uniquely creative problem-solving mechanism. And you know from your experience that the more you solve problems, the more this will cause you to feel a deep sense of confidence as you move closer and closer to your ambition. You know that it's better to trust your subconscious whenever you see a problem, and trust that over a bit of time, maybe you need to think about the problem for a couple of days before your subconscious delivers a solution to you. You know it's better to be patient with problems, because nobody ever achieved a great ambition without solving a shit ton of problems along the way. You understand this from your experience, perhaps more so than everybody else. Any future movement into the future is another opportunity to demonstrate not only to yourself, but to everybody else your consistently growing problem-solving skills. Solved problems are the other side of obstacles that others keep themselves trapped by. Now, it might not seem interesting and exciting to leave the group of ego-flexing problem description contests and actually solve problems, but you know from your experience that the more you solve problems, the more you embrace problems, which is very difficult, but somebody like you can do this, the more you'll move closer to your ambition. It is your deep, burning desire that will cause you to absolutely crush obstacles as they come up. And what is particularly interesting about your particular problem-solving strategies is other people will probably have a hard time understanding them, even if you try to describe them to them. Because most people, let's face it, are not the type like you to solve problems. Most people very much want to complain about problems. And it's almost a badge of honor to be stuck by the problems of life. And they get into these ego-flexing conversational contests to see who can be the best victim being held back by the unfairness of life. But you know differently. You know that life has always been unfair. Life has always been a struggle. That all of your successes that you have achieved in your past haven't come easy. In fact, if you remember some of your greatest successes now, as you listen to these words, if you remember some of your most bold and courageous decisions that you've made in the past, as you listen to these words, they were never easy. And they were always probably very, very lonely, because you had to make these decisions. You had to make these forward momentum decisions inside your brain when nobody but you knew whether or not you would be successful or not. That is the path of success. And the more you understand this, the more you reference your past decisions and remember how easily you can crush obstacles, the more you'll feel your ambition getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is what truly compels you forward, not the short-term pleasure you get by seeing who can best describe the unfairness of life. So the question is, how specifically do you solve problems? What process do you go through? Do you fall asleep at night and ask your subconscious to deliver you an answer in the morning? Or do you have another method? How many different strategies have you developed over the past few years to solve bigger and bigger problems, to learn bigger and bigger lessons from the inevitable obstacles that life throws down in your path unexpectedly? Because that is who you are. A creative problem-solving genius. And the more you embrace this aspect of you, the more you will crush any obstacles, learn from these obstacles, and achieve your greatest ambition.